For more than 3 decades, the greats of Australian motorsport have come to celebrate on the mountain. To celebrate the Holdens, the Fords, the Moffats, the Brocks, the Johnsons, the Richards. To celebrate the spoils of success, the dignity of defeat, the anguish, the heartbreak. This weekend, the biggest names are back. Big Jim Richards, powerful Paul Morris, and the new generation, headed by a name to ignite fear into the best, James Brock, and glamorous racing sensation, Leanne Ferrier. Come celebrate the new, the old, the Healeys, the VH Holdens, the mighty 2 litres. It's the October long weekend. That means it's Bathurst and the network that celebrated motorsport in Australia for 3 decades, the 7 Network. Live from the mighty mountain, Mount Panorama, Bathurst. Yes, hello everyone and welcome to this great festival of Australian motorsport. A fantastic new program this year, as well as the Super Tourers. We've got the V8s back in the form of the new Bathurst Tourers. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. The weather at Bathurst is absolutely sensational, perfect for racing at the moment. 20 degrees is our expected top. We have 20 at the moment, very light winds. The chance of a thunderstorm, but that is a decreasing possibility as the day goes on. The Holden HQs coming up on today's program, the Formula Vs and the big one, 100 kilometres of Super Tourer action, 16 laps here at Mount Panorama. Well, it is a big one. It's 30 years since Peter Brock debuted here. Brocky, welcome back. It's great to be back at the Mount, isn't it?
Mark. It is wonderful. It's a beautiful track and always a great atmosphere at the mountain, a great level of expectation about people taking on the challenge of what is the greatest track around.
The temptation for you to get back in the driving seat, is that at all real?
Well, I mean, I love driving cars fast. But I think that, in all honesty, the days of competitiveness are behind me. I look at young James and all those young kids out there having a go, particularly a weekend like this, which is really it's like bees to a honey pot. The young kids just finally getting their chance to get to the mountain, and I sit back and think, it's their turn, really.
Now, you mentioned James, who's racing in the Bathurst Tourers. What's it like for you as a parent? Are you involved, or are you standing back a little bit? Or?
I had the most incredible experience. When James went out there initially in practice, he was fiddling around, the car wasn't right, and finally went out there and he got it all together, and he posted a lap time, which momentarily had him in pole position. And when he came in, and he sort of said to me, Dad, look, how'd I get on? I said, James, you're on pole at the moment. And it struck me, and I thought, wow, that's about as good as winning this race. I really did get an enormous level of pleasure out of it, yeah. And
have you had a lot of involvement in setting up this car?
Yeah, I have had, in terms of spring shocks and a bit of strategy and what spare parts to sort of pack and what can go wrong. The what-ifs is always the major issue of this track because it's such it's hard on people, hard on motor vehicles, etc. So what-if scenarios are one you've got to explore, and of course, the more experience you have, I guess the more intelligent sort of scenario you can create. But really, James has built that car himself. He took an old Oz car and he's turned it into a very, very passable sort of circuit race car. And I have to accept the fact that his levels of, his standards of fabrication, the way he puts a car together, surpasses easily that of his father's, yeah.
So much coming up on this weekend. You look across the program, the Super Tourers, the Bathurst Tourers, the Formula Vs, the HQs. What stands out for you? What are you looking forward to most?
I think the Bathurst V8s. I mean, obviously, James is in that, but taking that aside, this is a race category I've had a lot to do with over the last year or so. It's the birth child, really, I guess, of Bruce Williams, who sat down there with a great idea, and it's really been a tough road to hoe. He's done it tough all the way through to try and get it up. I've been encouraging him all the way through, and I've been involved, I guess, in fine-tuning of the rules and regulations. So to me, I have a bit of a sense of ownership of that one, and I think it really is a moment in history. I think that that new category is going to allow a lot of young hopefuls around this countryside to say, I've got a dream of racing at Bathurst. I've got a dream of racing a Falcon or a Commodore V8 at Bathurst once more, and I believe I can get there via this category.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing that dream come to fruition for so many young Australians over the course of this weekend. Let's find out a little bit more now about the V8 Bathurst Tourers.
Mount Panorama has seen many innovations over the years, from the debut of Racecam 20 years ago to the appearance of Super Tourers in 1997. In 1999, there will be another innovation at the track, the first appearance of the new Bathurst Tourers. After a 3-year development period, the 5-litre V8 Holden Commodores and Ford Falcons take to the legendary Mount Panorama track for the first time this weekend. The driving force behind the class is Bruce Williams.
I had a dream. Basically years of motor racing and competing in Oz cars and V8 touring cars and things like that, and I thought it was about time we had a category that people could go afford to go motor racing in, and you didn't need $1 million to be there. Ford and Holden V8s, this is it.
The class is wholly designed for even competition. There is a long list of control components for the category. The cost of body shells to build the cars is subsidised, with a strong roll cage providing maximum driver protection.
A realistic cost for a good car on a budget is probably somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000. A top-of-the-line VT Commodore or an AU Falcon to the new specifications will be somewhere between $80,000 to $100,000.
All engine internals are supplied by specialist manufacturers, which ensures maximum durability at minimum cost. From the crankshaft to the valve gear, proven components mean that reliability can be counted on from the start. On top of the engines, the proven Motec fuel injection and engine management systems means that the engines are powerful and drivable. Both Holden and Ford packages produce around 300 kilowatts, and power is transmitted through a super T10 4-speed gearbox. Underneath, the story is the same. Suspension components are tightly controlled, with Harrop brakes providing great stopping power. All cars will race on the same 17-inch ROH wheels with controlled Dunlop racing tyres. Cars carry 100 litres of fuel and must weigh a minimum of 1,250 kilograms. The class has been very well received by competitors.
I've only raced Commodore Cup. They're really strong. They're good fun to drive and they're very direct. They're very early in development, but we've done a bit of testing at Calder last week and up here today. No, they're going good. They will go quicker.
And the future looks bright. Along with Australian drivers, competitors in New Zealand have adopted the class to be the new national touring car category, providing drivers with the opportunity of trans-Tasman competition.
I would say by this time next year at Bathurst we'll have probably 40 or 50 cars. There's a huge amount of people wanting to build them. Now that they've seen the cars on the track and people are starting to talk about how fantastic they are to drive, how durable they are, the tyres, the wheels, the brakes, it's just going to snowball.
So, Peter, we're looking at what could be a great international class if we get the Kiwis coming over racing.
Indeed, and I went over there earlier this year with Ron Harrop and Bruce Williams, and the Kiwis actually have decided to adopt this, as you said before, as a national category, and that is huge. I mean, that's just fantastic for trans-Tasman competition.
Yeah, we love that rivalry. Peter, the one thing you notice when you go down the pits here amongst the Bathurst tours is the tremendous camaraderie that's in there, I guess because the teams are also young and fresh and ready to go.
I mean, take the crew that James has got. I mean, not one of them has been here to Bathurst. I mean, it's just amazing. Here they are. They're all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, you know, going, wow, Bathurst.
This is the real thing.
We're here. And they're a little bit tentative on Thursday, but I notice all the teams now, they're getting in the swing of things and they're sort of doing things with a level of urgency. And I think we're going to see some pretty slick pit stops. There's going to be a few fumbles and things like that, but generally speaking, it's giving young engineers, young drivers, young team managers, all those sorts of people, their chance at the big time.
Well, we've got plenty of action coming up this afternoon. We've got the 100-kilometre race for the Super Tourers as well, but when we come back, we'll see the V8 Bathurst Tourers in action. For pictures of Mount Panorama from the Goodyear blimp. The sun's shining down, it is 20 degrees and the weather is fine at the moment. As we get set for our feature race of today, and it will be the Super Tourers for 100 kilometres, 16 laps of the 6.2 kilometre Mount Panorama circuit. Let's go now to our commentators as we rejoin David Tapp with Brad Jones.
And indeed, Peter Brock also joining us for the call of this 100 kilometre Super Touring event. Over 16 laps, race cars now on the circuit conducting their warm-up lap. They'll grid up and go racing over a sprint distance. Let's take this opportunity now to go down to pit lane where Ben Beasley will chat with Cameron McLean.
Thank you very much, David Tapp. I am with Cameron McLean, co-driver for Jim Richards tomorrow, but spectator today.
Yeah, it's a bit hard standing here. I sort of want to get in the car and go out there and have a go, but it's a strategy we've picked. Rather than the driver change, we'll do the tyre stop, and yeah, I've got to wait and see what happens.
Any idea when you will come in?
Oh, it's the old story. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. George wouldn't appreciate it very much, and I might not never drive for Volvo again. So, yeah, we're just going to wait and see what happens in the race and work out on the safety cars and when Paul pits. And now we've just got to play it by ear. We've got a few strategies, and we'll choose one during the day.
Okay, Cameron, good luck.
Thanks very much.
Starting it tough to Cameron McLean finding it tough to be a spectator as we now go on board with gentleman Jim Richards, one of the true mountain masters. Let's now hear from our other pit reporter this weekend, Phil Brannigan.
Well, as if beating Jim Richards in the Volvo wasn't hard enough, Paul Morris has had a problem, and Greg Worcester's his Nemo Racing team manager. What's happened?
We had to do an engine change after qualifying. With the last lap of qualifying that we did, the engine started to breathe a little bit too much, so we decided for this race we better play it safe and change an engine.
So how does that affect your mileage for tomorrow's 500k race?
We're still on the safe side because we sort of had safety precautions in TAC where we could change engines and still do both races comfortably.
Have a good race.
Thank you.
Not far away from a start now in this 16-lap sprint, 20 Super Tourers in total to take part. Jimmy Richards on pole position in the Volvo S40. Beside him on the front row, Paul Morris, the BMW 320i. Now on the second row of the grid, the Baird Coleman Volvo S40. Canto in the Ford Mondeo starting out of position number 4. Peter Hills in the other Ford Mondeo on the inside of the third row of the grid. Then the Newman Peugeot 406 starting beside him. Fourth row of the grid, Armstrong and Robson, McGill and Quartley. The Ford Mondeo of McGill should perform reasonably well. Then Cornish Townsend, the Nissan Primera, inside of row number 5. Miller in the Toyota Camry will start out of position number 10. Miles in the BMW 320i on the inside of row 6, then Downard and Porter, the BMW E36. Salmon and White, the Mitsubishi Lancer. Letcher and Thompson, BMW 318i. Eighth row of the grid, Newton in the Vauxhall Vectra and Kilpatrick lining up at towards the rear of the field in the Porsche. Chapman and Chapman, another BMW 318i on row 9. The Hyundai Lantra of Elias and Leabeater. Haynes and Rolfo, the Toyota Carina inside of row 10. And Ray and Cribben in the Toyota Carina E on the outside of row number 10. 20 cars, as I've mentioned. A shakedown race in preparation for tomorrow's 500-kilometre Super Touring event. Jim Richards, 2 minutes 18.688. The fastest man on the circuit here at Mount Panorama so far. Morris, the rear-wheel drive BMW. And of course, Jim Richards, the Volvo S40, 5-cylinder front-wheel drive. Morris has been enjoying good starts because of the rear-wheel drive configuration right throughout the national title, which he won by 2 points ahead of Jimmy Richards. Super cool, the veteran, study of concentration. Baird in the other Volvo, car number 4. Expect it to be running very quickly, so we're not far away now from a start in this 100-kilometre 16-lap race for the Super Tourers. Richards, right-hand side of screen, pole position on the front row. Gee, a good start from the Volvo on the second row too. In fact, Richards absolutely got swamped at the start there. He crept away from the line, then stood still, and Paul Morris, as we mentioned, got a terrific start in the rear-wheel drive BMW, and he's going to race up Mountain Straight the first time with a very handy lead, Brad Jones.
He certainly is. The BMW has been getting fantastic starts all year, but I've got to tell you, that was a great start by Craig Baird in the second Volvo. A year of being in the BTCC in the Ford Mondeo hasn't hurt him, and he got that car off the line really well. Paul's car will be a little bit more tyre friendly on this first lap. I think you'll find him probably extending the lead slightly. The car, just because it's rear wheel drive, he can throw it around a fraction more, and he'll be looking to put a bit of a gap between himself and Jim Richards.
Well, Bradley, you haven't got that problem with the front drive cars. As you know, you're honking into the top of the mountain there, and if your back tyres are cold, you lift off, and boy, oh boy, you can nearly swap ends.
Exactly.
Whereas the BM, of course, you can just honk in there with a bit of understeer on and just grind it on, and it's going to be great.
Jimmy Richards has shaken off the challenge of his other Volvo teammate Craig Baird for the moment anyway, but obviously he has some work to do now to reel in that man, our race leader, Paul Morris, on the gas here at Mount Panorama. Strange start there by Jimmy Richards, gentlemen. He looked to get away and then just stopped.
I think it just bogged down a little bit, and perhaps the clutch had a little bit of a slip, who knows. But the main thing is, with Paul Morris out front, it's one thing to catch him, it might be another thing to pass.
True. The interesting thing about the Volvo is it has a handbrake in it, so they actually ease off the brake as they do the start to try and control the amount of wheel spin to get off the line. Craig Baird's disappeared out of sight behind us there. I think he's got a bit of a problem. He's certainly slipping back into the grips of the Mondeos. We can't quite see it at the moment, but Jim's got a lot of gap between himself and Baird, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that second Volvo in a little bit of trouble at the moment.
Obviously, the BMW, a slightly heavier car, 1,000 kilograms. The Volvo running second, 975 kgs. And Morris will be approaching the end of the first of 16 laps fairly soon. And I'll tell you what, Richo has made up considerable ground. There's his signature security Ford Mondeos. Nicely turned out team. Gee, they've done a good job the last 12 months.
They have. The cars look fantastic. And Craig's taking a bit of a, I wouldn't say he's blocking, but certainly moving the car around to stay in front of the Mondeos. It surprised me a little bit. I really expected that he'd be very close to the front too. So maybe he's just having a little bit of trouble getting the tyres up, the temperature in the car or something. But we're looking out from Peter Hill's car now. You've got Dean Canto in front of him, his teammate from this year, and they're doing a fantastic job. As you said, the cars are presented immaculately at the moment, and these two cars are pretty even. There's not much between them.
Car number 7 into the pits for the first time. Lecter is the driver, BMW 318i. And early problems, which is not the way it was scripted, I'm sure.
Well, I'm not sure whether it's early problems or whether they're just getting their mandatory stop over and done with quite early. Got to place a wheel on the ground, pick it up. No, they're just doing the mandatory stop, I think you'll find. Getting the wheel nut back on, and there we go.
It's the Ferrari pit stop we're looking at there,
I tell you, it's very frustrating. It's very difficult to do when you're there.
We should point out, you've touched on it, problems.
Now, here we go, the first car. Now, I think you'll find that this guy that's done the pit stop has done the right thing. You can't do your pit stop under caution, and if the caution comes out, or the pace car comes out, to sort of clear that car away, this guy the field will close up, and he will be as close as he can to the leaders. It's a good strategy.
Roger Townsend in the Nissan Primera. That was the car you saw off the racetrack. I was about to mention the compulsory pit stop that the organisers of this event have put into place this afternoon in this 100-kilometre race. They're required to pit any time before the 12th lap.
And I can assure you, if my team was here, we would be pitting right now, because I feel that you need to get the pit stop over and done with as early as you can in case there's a caution period, and then you close up. You're not allowed to do this mandatory stop under a caution period, so you have to do it under green. And I think if you get it over and done with early, a little bit of luck, there's a caution, the field closes up, could quite potentially be a winning combination or an edge for you if you did it right.
Well, we're just getting word that the Morris pit is ready for car 1 to come in. So obviously Paul Morris is running a very light fuel load. Who decides what? He's ready.
Well, they only need to change 2 tyres. I think the other part of the strategy for this race is most of those that Morris looks like he's going to do another lap now. Now, we've got, is this Peter Hills coming into the pits?
It is indeed Bradley. Peter Hills, team owner of the Signature Security Ford Mondeo team. Our man Ben Beasley is on the spot, and we'll cross to Ben now.
Yep, he's just going to change the tyres. They will take the tyres off and put them on the ground and then put them straight back on. Once again, he's chosen to stop a lot earlier than maybe first expected, but get the stop out of the way and straight back in the race, and hopefully not put us too much in position.
If you're asking at home, what's the point of all of that? I guess it's to add a different dimension to the race.
Yeah, just add a little bit of spice in the sprint rounds of the championship. We all do these in one of the races, and it adds a little bit of spice, shakes the race up a little bit. There's a 60-kilometre speed limit through the pits, which I'm sure, after racing, it seems to take forever to get from one end of the pit lane to the other.
It's just such a drama, isn't it? I noticed that Paul Morris just did a 19.6 in his last lap, and out of interest, that's faster than what he qualified at. So he's not mucking around.
And Jimmy Richards, ironically, Peter, was a fraction faster. The gap was 1.43 seconds, separating first and second when they raced up the main straight last time. Looking at the way Richards is throwing the S40 around the circuit, he's making considerable ground. And he said right throughout the week he was confident of doing so. He wasn't concerned by the fact that Morris would more than likely get a better start with the rear-wheel drive BMW. He was always confident. He only needed a couple of laps to get back to him.
There's no doubt that he's definitely probably half a second lap faster there at the moment. And well, now it's down to strategies. Will Morris come in this lap or not?
I think Morris, his crew don't look like they're preparing for a stop, so I think he might just sit out there for a while. And the Volvo's doing the same thing by the looks of things from where we're standing. I can't help but say it again. I would like to get that pit stop over and done with early, because you never know what's going to happen later on in the race.
Yeah, it can be a bit cute at times, and I'm with you, Bradley. I would say that let's get all that stuff over and done with, and let's see which way the cards fall from there on in.
Here's our race leader and second place drivers, Morris and Richards respectively. Morris, bittersweet memories of Mount Panorama, combining with Craig Baird in 1997 to cross the start-finish line first in the Diet Coke BMW, only to be excluded from the results because Baird had spent too much time in the car. And look at the ground he's made up now. Gentleman Jim is about to harass Paul Morris, our race leader, up Mountain Straight again. 3 laps gone.
He's certainly on him, and it looks like the Volvo's got just a little bit more horsepower. It is a fraction lighter than the BMW, but of course it's a newer car. But catching Paul and getting by him are two completely different things. So I'm sure they'll be looking at this a little bit differently because the race is so long tomorrow, and they don't want to have any contact and give damage the cars in any way. But I think that Paul won't be in a rush to let him by. You want to hold him up and keep him behind him as long as you can.
Bradley, I'm astonished how fast that Richo was at the end, at right-handed end of the Mountain Straight there. He was just, he just caught up like about 4 or 5 car lengths. It was sensational.
On board now with Paul Morris, Polycoat Race Cam. He is the leader in this 100-kilometre super touring event this afternoon, and can see rear vision mirrors full of Jimmy Richards. Brocky, Paul Morris has elected tomorrow in the 500-kilometre race to drive the entire distance on his own. How tough will that be?
Well, look, I mean, I ran that about his age. I remember doing 800 kilometres around here in the Tirana XU1. I was pretty tired at the end of it all, but I managed to do it. I thought, yep, you're young, you're fit, you'll probably do it okay. I don't think it's going to be a physical problem. That's my opinion.
But in those days, didn't you have peeled oranges and things in the console?
As a matter of fact, I sat there pleading for Harry Firth to give me a drink, but he didn't want to do that because he thought my bodily functions might dictate my lack of concentration. Jimmy there really pressing Morris through the Caltex chase there. Doesn't that Volvo sit beautifully? It really is handling well.
Fantastic car.
Terrific little racing car. We'll update the top 5 for you at this stage of proceedings with 3 and a bit laps gone. It's Morris, Richards, Baird, Canto and McGill. We'll take a break from Mount Panorama. Stay with us on the 7 Network. Nice to have your company wherever you might be watching around Australia as we welcome you back to Mount Panorama on lap 5 of 16 in this 100-kilometre 2-litre super touring event. And up front, it's still Paul Morris. Now Jim Richards in the Volvo S40, pulling out of the slipstream. Thought about an outside pass, but certainly didn't have the right line, and wisely tucked back in, Bradley.
Well, I have to say that the BMW looks like it's every bit the match for the Volvo from here, right across the top to the Conrod Straight. But that Volvo seems to go up and down the hill very, very quickly. And once they get into about 4th gear and get over that second rise, Jim's just got enough speed to be able to pull out and pull up beside the BMW. But Paul has the right to pick whichever line he wants. He's running around the inside of the racetrack, nothing wrong with that. And it enables him to just keep the Volvo behind him. But as you can see, he puts maybe 3 or 4 car lengths on the Volvo across here. And he's having a big go, make no mistake about that. You can see the back of the car stepping out here and there, and he's working the car as hard as he can.
I noticed a bit of smoke off the right-hand front tyre coming through Reed Park that last lap, and oh gee, I don't think it was, I don't know what it was, but it just shows how much attitude the car's got.
Yep, he's got a little bit extra lock in there, and I've noticed that every now and again when he's having a big go, it'll just puff of smoke shoots up off that tyre very close to the guard there. And Paul's not using all the road coming onto the straight because he's in a little bit of a hurry to get back over to the inside, I think, to make sure that he's got Jim covered. But it takes Jim for a while to wind the Volvo up to get right back onto Paul, which he does just about now, and recover all that gap that Paul's worked so hard for across the top of the hill. And then, of course, it's a bit of a battle going back up Mountain Straight.
Mind you, looking at lap times, I mean, Paul's doing a sensational time. He's lapping in sub-220s, and That's faster than he qualified at. That's working hard, there's no doubt about it. I think Richo could go faster if he was in front, though.
I definitely think that Paul's holding him up a little bit here. He starts to block from here until he gets up to the top of the hill again, and you see Jim here. He's certainly got a little bit more extra power. But as you said, Paul's going faster than he qualified, and they've got the new engine in. Obviously, it's working really well. Now, he's had a bit of a problem there.
Well, you look at it.
A bit of traffic.
And
Paul
Richo,
doesn't leave him too much room to get through that hole.
Great shots from the Goodyear blimp gentleman.
He took that defensive line coming up pit straight and got a relatively poor run out of Hill Corner. And this is what's happening. He's driving defensively, still going remarkably quickly at the top of the mountain, but allowing Richo to hang in. Now, I don't think Richo's needing to work that hard, actually, to stay there.
No, I think what will happen is Volvo are pretty sharp in the pits, but Paul's team certainly matched him at the last race. The Volvo team look like they're getting ready down there now, so I'd say Jim will be in this lap or the next lap, unless they're getting ready for bed. And...
Did you say getting ready for bed, or it's only... what?
Oh, Craig's bed.
Oh, Craig bed, okay.
And I think that Jim will probably wait, not take too many unnecessary risks, see what happens, and if he doesn't pass him in the pits, then maybe press on a little bit.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Craig Baird did start off quite slowly, but got a wriggle on, and he's doing 22s right now, as distinct from Richo doing 19s, but there's obviously nothing wrong with his car. Seems to have settled down pretty well.
Gap between first and second, gentlemen, 0.14 of a second. Then a big gap back to third, 22 seconds, believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, we don't really need... Oh, here we have one of the Newman Peugeots in here having the mandatory pit stop. Slam the tyre on the ground.
Let's go down to Ben Beasley.
Yeah, just coming in. Really busy scenes down here because right behind them, the Volvo team is obviously getting ready for a pit stop as well. Bit of trouble with the front right, but now he's got it right. And here he comes down, Anthony Robson, eventually finding gear, and he is now away.
Here's Jimmy Richards. Meantime, we're going to have a change of lead. Caltex chase. As we heard the Peugeot coughing and spluttering in the pits, Jimmy Richards was flying up on the inside. Straight to the pits now for Paul Morris. We expected that a little sooner than this.
You have to be very careful of the 60k limit. They've already pinged 2 cars.
Cars 7 and 22 have sped in the pits and have received a black flag and a stop-and-go penalty.
And Phil Brannigan is there.
Yes, Morris has pitted. They laid out used tyres. He was going to run rotor tyres. At the last second, they put out stickers. He's looking pretty calm inside the car. The tyres are going on the right-hand side. This is what he said before the race. And that is one fast stop, 16 seconds.
Phil, thank you. The Subaru pit stop action.
Is that 60k down pit lane? I suppose it is.
He's got his foot on the brake, so it's a very, very difficult thing. Here's Baird's car in.
And Ben Beasley is there.
Yeah, like the Morris team, they will change the front tyres, not simply putting them on and off. Waiting for the car to go down. It seems to take an alternative for the car to go down.
Craig Baird, Volvo S40.
And
crawling back up pit lane to rejoin the race. Jimmy Richards, meantime, is setting the mountain alight and is going to be putting some laps on slower cars shortly.
Well, what Jim will be doing is he'll be out there pressing on. He probably would like to do maybe 2 laps clear of Morris, and then make the pit stop and stay in the lead.
Here's the top 5 for you. 7 laps of 16 gone. It's Richards, Morris, Baird, Canto and McGill as we take a break from Mount Panorama Bathurst. Welcome you back to Mount Panorama Bathurst. Jimmy Richards still the leader of this 100-kilometre event for super touring cars on lap 9 of 16. During the break, he went in for a lightning pit stop, and this was, well, a real Rolls-Royce pit stop, if I can use that expression.
Yep, the Volvo team have been a crack team all year, and they certainly got that car in and out quickly. Brand new tyres, they've all done that. All brand new sticker tyres. None of the front 3 cars have put rotor tyres on, which really surprises me. On quickly, 2 guys on each corner. Cars down, see you later.
That's sensational. That was a very, very good stop by any standards.
And he re-entered the racetrack, I guess, 20 or 30 metres ahead of Paul Morris, who was looming in an effort to try and get back to the race lead.
And I'm not sure, I can't really remember Paul's stop, but I think Volvo are probably the only ones that are using 2 people per wheel on the stop, which I think is a bit of a loophole that they can do that today, but I'm not sure that's possible tomorrow.
Probably saying 4 people on the car total, but I don't know. George is always there. George Shepherd, the team manager, he's fantastic at finding any loophole. There's no doubt about that. There's the gap between first and second, and that is considerable now. That's probably about 5 seconds or something like that.
Well, I actually thought that Morris would close in a little bit on Jim when he was out on green tyres. The BMW for the first 2 laps after a pit stop usually is quite good on new tyres and goes a little bit faster than the front-wheel drive car. With the front-wheel drive car, when you've got 2 brand new tyres on it, it becomes very taily until the front tyres get up to temperature. Where the BMW has them down one side of the car and is still very well balanced. So usually in the sprint races, it's an opportunity for Paul to catch us or get away a little bit, and after 2 or 3 laps, you start the running back down again.
Although I remember from my days racing those Volvos that what you needed was the oxy torch on the back tyres and cool front tyres, and you're going to pull a pretty good lap because a couple of hard corners with the lock on, bit of power, the front tyres got up to operating temperature, but the back was always the problem. I don't know about this latest model, but certainly he's pulled out a gap there. I think he's looking fantastic.
Well, Paul's doing 2:19s now, and Richo on that first lap did a 2:46, including his pit stop, which I've got to say was quite a quick lap. So Paul will be pedalling as fast as he can, trying to. Today is a very good indication of what's going to happen tomorrow for them in the time of the pit stops and how the car's going to respond after the change. Jim's got a 4-second lead now, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. A little bit of trouble here.
Let's go to Ben Beasley in the pits.
The number 97 car is in the pits, and it is not just one of these normal pit stops. They have a gearbox problem. Searching around, they don't have a lot of time to fix it because this race will run out pretty quickly. And obviously just trying to get some more laps in the car and before tomorrow's longer race would always be handy, but it looks like the driver is now he's getting out of the car.
Thanks for that, Ben. Bad news for that particular team. So the race order: Richards, Morris, Baird, Hills and Canto. 2 Mondeos in the top 5, and also Newman, in fact. The top 6 drivers all on the lead lap at this stage, which is lap 10. And down Conrod Straight they run once again, 250 kilometres an hour. One of the most exhilarating stretches of bitumen in the world, I'm sure, gentlemen. You guys have been there and done that.
This particular part where Paul Morris is now is rather interesting. You certainly pay attention going through that right-hander because you've got to use all the road, and you can keep it absolutely flat. A well-balanced Super Tourer is probably not a major problem, although I still remember getting in trouble with that little Vauxhall Vectra going back a couple of years, Bradley.
Paul Morris, you're currently looking at. We now go inside the BMW 320i, and Paul is wired for sound. Paul David Tapp, how are you progressing at the moment? Are you happy?
I'm chasing down Jimmy at the moment. He's got in front of me in the pit stop. So I had a bit of trouble with traffic on my outlap, and I lost a bit of time there as well, but I don't think I'll get him from here.
Paul Morris, are you finding the rear-wheel drive BMW suiting the circuit at the moment?
Yeah, no, we're quick. We're quicker than we were in qualifying. The car's really good.
Yeah, I noticed you've done every lap has been a 19, so you'd be happy about that?
Yeah, the car's great. We made a few changes, and which we didn't get to test because we lost that engine. But just go through the cutting here. Hang on. But we're happy with the race pace. A bit better pit stops, and we'll be looking real good for tomorrow.
Hang in there, Paul.
Okay, mate. See ya.
Morris doing a fantastic job, has always done a wonderful job in 2-litre Super Touring cars, has won 33 national championship races, 19 pole positions, and of course he won the 1999 title by just 2 points over Jimmy Richards. That was a season-long battle.
Well, I noticed that Paul Morris has just gone the quickest he has during the race, and he's done a 19.5. And Jimmy Richards, though, has gone faster than his qualifying time. He's done a 2:18.5, so that's exceptional. Mind you, at the moment, the track conditions, the temperature and everything else will be helping that somewhat.
Paul's having a little bit of trouble here with traffic. I think just a little bit of a hello, knock, there I am, look out of the way. And this, there we go, he just slips by now.
Mark Porter in the other BMW getting out of the way. Back up front we come now. The Volvo S40, beautifully turned out machine, and it runs as good as it looks. Richards is the leader, Morris second, then Craig Baird, Peter Hills and Canto. That's the top 5 after 10 laps of 16. As you rejoin the 7 Networks exclusive coverage of Bathurst 99 from Mount Panorama. We're on lap 12 of 16, and you're currently looking at the second factory Volvo S40 being driven by Craig Baird, currently third in this race. A fair way behind his teammate Jim Richards, who leads. Paul Morris is still second. And Baird currently 44 seconds behind the race leader.
Not much of a gap.
He can improve on that.
Well, there's not much of a gap between Baird and Hills and Canto. They're all reasonably close, especially Baird and Hills, and this is a bit developing into a battle for third place. So Craig's been here a lot of times, and he's a very well-established driver and fast, and so he'll be doing all he can to keep the Mondeo behind him. But at the moment, there's not much of a split between the two of them. You see Baird there in third, and right behind him is Peter Hills in fourth in the Mondeo.
29 years of age, hails from Auckland in New Zealand. I've already mentioned earlier in this race the bittersweet memories he holds at this venue of 1997, winning the race, then subsequently excluded. And now on board with the driver of car number 88, Peter Hills, the signature security Ford Mondeo. Without a doubt the biggest improver in super touring car racing, Peter Brock.
Yes, and a car which is probably quite well suited to this mountain. I guess most of the drivers say, oh well, they perhaps don't handle quite as well on the twistier circuits with the engine weight and a few things like that, but gee, they've got plenty of mumbo, and that doesn't go astray when it comes to going up and down this mountain, I can tell you. So he's going quite well. Yes, he's doing well, lapping in 2:25.5 that last lap. That's the fastest lap of his in the race. So he's certainly zeroing in on Craig Baird. Craig Baird's responded with a 22 dead, so there's not much between them. Porsche guy just sort of, whoa! That's sort of dicey sort of situation.
Craig had a little bit of trouble getting by the Porsche, and it looks like he wasn't any kinder to Peter Hills.
The Mondeo, 24 valve, 6-cylinder engine, 2,000cc capacity.
I'll tell you what, he's zeroing right in here on Craig Baird. Craig's caught in behind the...
This is a big effort, isn't it?
Now, if he's just a little bit fortunate here, yep, he's got it. That's off in the way. The guy in front creates the awareness. There's the apex. He got that corner just nice. And yes, we do have a race in our hands for third place.
We certainly do. Has come a long, long way in a reasonably short period of time. This team...
I think the Volvo's probably the strongest car up and down the hill, and you have a look at the Mondeo, he's certainly not giving anything away to this Volvo. In fact, I'd say he's right on him. So a little bit of traffic can play into anybody's hands, and certainly it's favouring Peter at the moment. Oh, there we have a bit of a moment in front there.
Keep a flat, Peter Hills.
It's hard to know where they're going to go when they come back on in front of you.
Yes, it is.
That was Salmon. Unexpected excursion off the racetrack.
And a little Levo Lancer, that'd be quite a nice little car around here, actually.
Yeah, it would be. I think he braked about 10 metres too late into the chase, so very easy thing to do.
Jimmy Richards is your race leader. He's got a break of 6.8 seconds over Paul Morris. In third is Craig Baird, then Peter Hills and Canto rounding out the top 5. Mount Panorama, as you rejoin our pictures from Bathurst, car number 44 being driven by Dean Canto, currently running 5th on the racetrack, the Ford Mondeo. And they're doing an admirable job, this team. About 1.5 laps remaining in this 100-kilometre sprint for the 2-litre Super Touring cars ahead of tomorrow's 500-kilometre event. And Jimmy Richards sailing along out in front, 7.2 seconds clear of his nearest rival, Paul Morris.
But let's face it, he got 5 of those seconds out of the pit stop, and I reckon Craig Baird's got a problem. So I think tomorrow in the 500k race, those 3 are still going to be neck and neck, provided all the cars are working right and the pit stops are going according to plan.
Well, that's exactly right. The Volvo did have a misfire yesterday, and it could be okay today. But here we have Dean Canto's car. I can hear a flapping on that. Maybe one of the front or rear bumper bars or a flat spot on the tyre. It's you can hear it when you're quiet. A tick, 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 tick.
Obviously, a lot of motor racing coming your way this weekend on 7 here at Mount Panorama. It's a huge weekend of sport, though, on the 7 network. Back at Mount Panorama, on board with gentleman Jimmy Richards. This is the Tui's race cam inside the Volvo S40. The consummate professional at work in the office.
You can It's just a picture of concentration, Richo, isn't he? I mean, you look at him, he's got that almost a grim, determined sort of look in his face, and he doesn't make one error. He's fantastic, Richo.
Turned 52 a couple of weeks ago. Shows no signs of slowing down.
He's older than me, I didn't realise that.
Spring chicken.
That's why I mentioned it, Brocky, so you could get that in.
This is the last lap, and Richo will be looking and watching every apex, just kissing that, going just as hard in this last lap as on the first. But, you know, pro race drivers do that to maintain the levels of concentration. Basically, you know you got the car right. It's on song, it's online. You've got the gear shift points just so, and that's the way you got to drive it.
And he drives his car very well. Anyone might think that he's 52 and he's lost a little bit of his speed over the years. You're making a big mistake. He drives as hard now as he ever has, certainly the whole time I've been racing against him. And he's got a great attitude towards sport as well, or motorsport. He wins when he can, enjoys it all the time, and fierce competitor. And today he's done a great job.
He just loves it, doesn't he, Richo? I mean, that is the basis, it's a cornerstone to any successful racing driver or successful sportsman. If you love it, if you really enjoy doing it, you're going to go good.
Not far to run now for gentleman Jim Richards. Been another wonderful performance by this man driving the Volvo S40. An ideal shakedown in preparation for tomorrow's 500-kilometre race. And Jim Richards is going to win another race at Mount Panorama. Off the final corner, checkered flag unfolds. And just a little smile from Jim as we go on board, chatting to his crew chief. And now let's go down to pit lane where Ben Beasley is standing by to have a chat with Jim Richards' co-driver.
Yeah, I've got Cameron McLean here. You must be the happiest man in the pit.
Oh, I'm probably not quite as happy as Jim, but yeah, he made it look fairly easy out there and the car went well. The guys did a fantastic job in the pit stop and got 6 seconds for him there. And yeah, it makes my job tomorrow a little bit easier if the guys can do that again.
You will start tomorrow?
Oh, we'll talk about tonight, but I think that might be the plan, yeah.
So you're only as good as your last outing, and this is a great way to go into tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. The car was the fastest car on the track for most of the day, and yeah, and consistent, and the tyres hung in there, so we're delighted, and it looks really good for tomorrow.
The pit stop here today was excellent, and they will be as important tomorrow, won't they be?
Oh, absolutely. Like it can be won and lost in the pits, as we saw today, and yeah, we're looking forward to some great pit work tomorrow by our team, and another victory, hopefully.
Also a good job for the second car as well.
Yeah, Craig was complaining a little bit about a misfire out there, so that's why he was a bit off the pace, and the guys, I'm sure, will fix that tonight, and the car will be back on the pace for tomorrow.
Good luck.
Thanks very much.
Yes, they're going to be tough to beat, all right. Updating that for you. Richards, the victor. Morris second. Craig Baird third. Then Peter Hills finishing in fourth in the first of the Mondeos, and Dean Canto in the other Mondeo was fifth. Aaron McGill in the other Mondeo was sixth.
Well, Mondeo's going extremely well.
Indeed. Pictures from the Goodyear blimp, and we look forward to more of that tomorrow at Mount Panorama as we now take you back to our central studio and say good day to Mark again.
Thanks very much, David Tappan. A great job there, along with Brad Jones and Peter Brock. Well, we certainly hope you've enjoyed the entree today to the feast of motorsport that's coming your way this weekend on 7. Of course, the main meal is coming up tomorrow. We've got the 300-kilometre race for the V8s, the Bathurst Tourers, and the 500 kilometres. Also coming up, don't forget the World Cup Rugby on 7. Check your local guides for details on that one, live and exclusive at midnight to 6 a.m. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this afternoon's excitement from Mount Panorama. Join us for breakfast tomorrow morning. We'll see you at 8 a.m.